Reporting from Arkham Asylum, this is Mr. Ronks. So Harleen won the latest poll. It's finally time to take a look at the 3-issue miniseries called Harleen. Oh boy, another Harley Quinn origin story. Whippity whippity woo, yay! Yeah, I was obviously not very interested in this comic when it was initially announced, and for a long time. But a lot of people said that it's a great story, and it also features Two-Face in a major role. So I did eventually get a bit interested in finally looking into it, and well, now you guys are kind of forcing me to do it, so here we are. Harleen is a 3-issue limited series made by a guy whose name is pretty hard for me to pronounce. His name is Stepan Sejic, probably not correct. And it was released under DC's Black Label, not Johnny Walker's Black Label, DC's, which is this series of out-of-continuity stories, I'm pretty sure, that are supposed to be more mature or darker or whatever you will. So Harleen is basically Mad Love, but more in-depth. It essentially follows the same story with some changes here and there, but overall it's the same. Harleen Quinzel is a doctor who begins to work at Arkham Asylum, where she meets the Joker and becomes his doctor, and slowly she falls in love with him and becomes obsessed with him, and eventually becomes Harley Quinn, his crazy sidekick. It's a lot more dragged out though. As I said, it's more in-depth than Mad Love, and as I said, there are some changes. Harleen doesn't actually go to Arkham to be a psychiatrist for the patients. She goes there to do research for a project she's working on. She's sort of undercover in a way. She pretends to be going there as a regular doctor, but she's actually working on her own little secret project. And she needs insight from the patients to do so. This is a lot smarter Harleen Quinzel than what we're normally used to. She actually comes off as a doctor and not some ditzy bimbo, which is how Harleen Quinzel is usually portrayed, including her original appearances in the animated series, and of course in the later comics that adapted that version. And of course the modern Harley Quinn that we see in like the Suicide Squad movies and comics is also pretty much just this weird ditzy Looney Tune. This Harleen is not like that at all. This comic completely discards the Deadpoolish Looney Tune Harley Quinn, the fourth wall breaking, joking, I don't even know what she is version of the character. That's completely gone here. There's none of that here. Instead, she's an intelligent doctor doing her job. The work she's doing is actually pretty important too, as she's working on figuring out what makes a violent criminal in the first place. She has this theory that pretty much anyone can become a violent criminal if they're subjected to enough violent and disturbing experiences, that these experiences slowly remove their ability to feel empathy. And using this theory, you can thus predict who's going to become a psychotic killer, and you can then give them the care they need before it actually happens, thus stopping crime before they happen. And Harleen really believes in this project, and she feels it is very important. She isn't just doing it to get famous or publish a book or get a grant or whatever. Can you imagine the original ditzy bimbo Harleen Quinzel doing that? Yeah, this is a very different take on a character. I think that this is something we really needed to see with Harley Quinn. I often talk about how I only like the old original classic Harley Quinn and I hate the modern version. Well, that's because the modern version is crap. I mean, just look at the Suicide Squad related Harley and whatever she's in. The Deadpoolish version of the character, it's garbage. But then you have this, and this is actually really good. This is an evolution of the character that I greatly approve of. So yeah, I'm not just an old man yelling at clouds. I just don't like garbage storytelling and garbage characters.
This is Wix Studio.
Of course, you might wonder, well, if this Harleen Quinzel is so intelligent, then why is she fooled by the Joker? Well, it takes a lot longer for the Joker to manipulate Harleen in this version than it usually does. It's a slow burn in this comic. She actually meets the Joker once before going to Arkham. She's held at gunpoint by him during one of his fights with Batman. She survives the ordeal, naturally, because the Joker chooses not to shoot her for some reason, and she then later goes on to have horrible nightmares about the experience and the Joker. So their relationship begins with fear. She's terribly afraid of the Joker. And when going to Arkham and beginning her work, she avoids interviewing the Joker for a long time. Eventually she does though, and after avoiding him for so long and building up this terrifying image of him, when she finally meets him face to face, one-on-one, she kind of finds him underwhelming. He's not really as terrifying as she remembered. He's kind of just this babbling, pretentious clown, spewing out all these ideas about society. And I love the fact that the comic does this, that it's not love at first sight, which actually it is in the original stories. In Mad Love, it is love at first sight, but here it begins with fear, as it naturally should when he's holding her at gunpoint. And then when meeting him in Arkham, it kind of goes into this underwhelming feeling that the Joker isn't really all that special at all. He's just this pretentious know-it-all. But then Harleen spends a lot of time with him, a lot of personal time with him, just the two of them talking. Because she initially sees him as a prime candidate for her project. As given his ideas about people, the true nature of people, he really fits into what she's going for. So they get really close. They get closer than any other doctor has been able to get with the Joker. And he begins to open up to her like he hasn't done with anyone else and show his true self, because he's always just been spewing lies to other doctors, and she's realized that because she's watched the interview tapes, etc. And she's the only one who gets to see the real Joker, so she begins to feel really special. And soon an attraction forms between the two, and eventually they go as far as doing the hanky-panky in the therapy room with the security camera turned off. But it's a very slow build-up to that. It doesn't come out of nowhere. And of course, spoiler, but I'm pretty sure everybody could figure this out, the Joker is just manipulating her all along. He's just been feeding her lies just as he has with everyone else. He's not been showing the real Joker to her at all. She's been completely fooled. Yeah, it's the classic Harley Quinn and Joker story, told in a more in-depth way, and I suppose you could say in a more believable way. It's not just that though, it's sort of a story about all of Gotham itself, about the Gotham City's change into complete madness. And we also have Harvey Dent as a major character. He's Gotham City's DA as usual, and his transformation into Two-Face sort of parallels Harleen's transformation into Harley Quinn. Although of course the focus is a lot more on Harley than Harvey. They also point that out, that they have very similar names, Harley and Harvey, which is another parallel. They're sort of portrayed as the last two heroes of Gotham City, but they're very different. They are on opposing sides. Harvey wants to imprison and punish criminals, and Harley wants to redeem them, rehabilitate them. And their fall into madness, Harvey's transformation into Two-Face and Harleen's transformation into Harley Quinn, is sort of the end of Gotham City. Now all is lost, pretty much. The last two heroes have been destroyed. They sort of become perverted versions of their ideals. Harvey becomes the leader of a band called the Executioners, who, fittingly to their name, straight up executes criminals. No parole, no forgiveness, just a bullet to the head, because no criminal will ever become better. And Harleen goes so far with sympathizing with criminals that she becomes the sidekick and lover of one.
Rain, make it rain, girl, make it.
This parallel between Harvey Dent and Harleen Quinzel is something we've never really seen before. In this comic, they both fall at the same time and in very similar but yet at the same time different ways. And the comic draws a lot of attention to this parallel between these two characters. It makes me want to see more of it actually, because we usually just see Harley Quinn associated and compared to the Joker and Poison Ivy, not really any other characters in the Batman Rogues Gallery. So this was something new and fresh, and of course I'm a giant Two-Face geek. And I do think that this was a pretty fantastic take on Two-Face. I mean, it is very similar to my own take on Two-Face from the Patient Sessions, where he's this vigilante who brutally murders people instead of being a gangster. So it's nice to see that other creators are also catching on to this idea, this potential take on the character, this direction you can take him in. I'm also really glad that this comic didn't really give us any Harley Ivy at all. There's very little interaction between Harley and Ivy in this comic. There is a little bit, and there are some hints at their partnership. But there is no Harley Ivy. They're not a duo, they're not a team. And that's great, because I'm so tired of that team up. That's another thing this comic does right. It doesn't ruin Poison Ivy, which most other modern Harley Quinn stories do. Well, I think that's all I want to say about Harleen. Great comic. I finally talked about a great comic on Patreon. Ironically, it's a Harley Quinn comic, and the two stories featuring Two-Face and a Scarecrow are crap. Well, that's just how it is, I guess. Anyway, yeah, goodbye.